This is a basic beginner's guide on playing edits on DDR machines and also using link data and what link data is. So here's some of the things you might need. Some things are optional depending on what you want to achieve. So for example, DDR 5th Mix, this is the Japanese version of the game, and this will allow you to put edits and create edits to put on your PS1 memory cards. If you don't want to create edits, well, DDR 5th Mix, the Japanese version, has every official edit up until 5th Mix. There's around 3,773 on this game, and you can drag those onto your memory card and play them in the arcade. However, if you don't have a Japanese PS2 or DDR 5th Mix, you can alternatively download the files or download other people's edits or create your own edits on your PC, and this is where you use a DexDrive with an optional serial to USB converter, and of course you will still need the PlayStation 1 memory card. And again, going this option, if you don't have the PS2 in game, you can just use an emulator and download the game, but you still need the DexDrive to convert the data and put it on a memory card. So the memory cards themselves, official PlayStation memory cards will always work in the memory card slots in arcade machines. Then when you go off-brand, you will have to sort of pick and choose and experiment with which ones work. These GameStop ones work pretty well, in fact. And again, it doesn't have to be 5th Mix, you could have 4th Mix, 2nd Remix, but I do recommend 5th Mix because it has all the edits loaded in, and it also has a really nice editor as well. So one thing you might notice about the DexDrive is that it's an ancient piece of hardware. It comes with floppy disks with ancient software on it. It actually works with Windows 95, 98. Don't worry about that. I'll show you really good software you can use instead of this, and I've linked it in the description below. You no longer need these, they're pretty much useless. And again, with ancient hardware comes ancient connections. This is a serial interface, so to modernize it, you can use a serial to USB converter, and these are pretty cheap. Again, I'll link them in the description below. This is one that actually works with Windows 10 64-bit at time of filming, so it's nice and cheap, one of the cheapest ones you can get, and it will work with this with no problems. So before I start, read the description below. There will be a zip file which contains everything you need to know about DDR Edit, software, tools, guides, everything in there. I'll continue to update the zip file even though the video might be slightly out of date. So let's get on with things. So the first thing I'm going to cover is creating edits by just using a PlayStation, a standard PlayStation, and a memory card. No DexDrive needed or any other additional hardware. Because I feel that that's what most people would do, I'm going to cover that first. Then if you want to watch the rest of the video about the DexDrive and the software, you can continue to do so. So in this folder here, DDR Edit creating software, I've just put a document here, and this talks about which home versions on the PlayStation, and even the PlayStation 2 you can actually create edits for and put them on your memory card for use on an arcade machine. So I've painstakingly gone through almost every mix here, and that will tell you which home version you can create edits for. So say if you play 4th Mix Japanese PlayStation, yes, you can create edits, it's on the main menu. And again, it gets a bit more intricate. Say if you're playing a PlayStation 2 game, DDR Max 2, you can create edits on there, but in order for them to get on a PlayStation 1 memory card and for a DDR arcade machine to recognize them, you will have to do some edits to the files manually, and you will need a DexDrive to do that. And the same applies for Kona Mix here. However, the other ones should be perfectly compatible with the arcade on a PlayStation 1 memory card. The one I do recommend is using DDR 5th Mix because that has a complete data bank from every game before then, and it's built into the game. There's around 3,700 edits there. So if you want to create edits with the official game and a memory card without any additional hardware, I recommend using 5th Mix Japanese for the PlayStation 1, and that has a full data bank, and you can create your own edits. You can use the data bank of edits and drop them onto your memory card, so it's really easy to do. And again, this file will talk about everything to do with edits and which home versions support edits. So you can see inside the main menu for DDR5 here, it has an edit feature where you can create your own edits and save them to memory cards. And it's just a case of creating new data. You choose the song you kind of want to create the edit for. You create the chart, and it'll give you sort of like the sample chart, what appears in the arcade, and then you can just use these various things to save them and also create your edits. So it gives you sort of like the template of the official song to work with, and then you can save it out. And you can even save out the official song using this menu onto your memory card. You can see from the main menu there's a data bank, and that contains all the edits, which I sort of covered earlier. And inside the data bank itself, now these are all official files created by all the step makers, and previously these are only available on the home version, but using these tools we can bring these to the arcade. And you can see in the top corner here there's 3,771 of them. So you can see for B4U here there's 22 edits. So yeah, quite a lot of data to work with. So it's not just DDR 5th mix home version that has an edit mode or a data bank for that matter. This is DDR 4th mix.
Come here.
DDR best hits. Dancing stage dreams come true. Edit mode.
Welcome.
DDR 3rd mix. And Kona mix, and there's many more mixes that do this. I'm not going to cover them all, but here's some examples. Again, I'm just showing you on an emulator, but if you want to save out data from an emulator, you will need something like a DexDrive to get that information on your memory card. But this is just sort of simulating a home console, so you can see. So unless you have a serial port native to your computer on a PCI or on the motherboard itself, then you might have a serial to USB adapter. And we're just going to talk about installing that on the system and configuring it. And it's not as simple as you might sound, so I'll just go through it now. So open Device Manager. You can either go Start Run and type in the shortcut here, or right click My PC, Properties, Device Manager. It doesn't really matter, they go to the same place. Under Ports here, it will actually appear as a COM device right here. Now when it installs, it might allocate itself, say COM5 or COM6, which will be your next free COM slot. You can see mine's COM2. If you right click it here, Properties, go to Port Settings, then Advanced, then you can actually change the COM number it belongs to. However, with the software that's provided with the DexDrive and aftermarket software, they'll typically only recognize the first 4 COM ports here, so it needs to sit in one of these first 4 COM ports, and this is where we change it. And when you change it, you will need to restart your system in order for the changes to take effect, otherwise the software will just not recognize it at all. Similarly, when you plug it in for the first time, restart your computer and you'll know the software will now start detecting it. So that's a bit of a gotcha there. If a COM port is in use like this one, you can just set it to that, press OK, but you will need to restart again. And it really depends what's using it. On my system I have no COM devices at all, but it says there's 3 in use. Who knows why? I have no idea, but I just set it to COM2, restarted, it detected it with no problems at all. So that's how you sort of configure your USB to serial adapter. Again, if your computer needs drivers for that, then they're included in this folder right here, serial to USB adapters. The most common ones use a CH34 chip, or a PL2303 driver. They're the 2 most common ones. Again, Windows 10 includes both of these natively if you have a full installation, but if you have a slimmed down installation or maybe something else, then these are the drivers for those, but you should not have to use them on a Windows 10 system. So that's how to install the interface. And if you want the guide in a text format, I've also included that here, where you can actually see these steps in text form. So in order to test the installation of the DexDrive, we'll just open it up in some software and see if it can detect the DexDrive on our system. So in this folder here, DexDrive drivers and software, just go in here and just use DexDrive Dexter, which is a really good aftermarket app, very minimal, portable, and you can use Dexter for almost anything you need to do. So if we just click DexDrive here, then open DexDrive. This is the serial port where our serial to USB adapter is installed to, in my case anyway, and it just lives on COM2, so click OK, and that's going to open the DexDrive. The DexDrive itself has a LED on the top which goes orange, and that will only come on when it's reading or writing to the card. It won't come on at any other time. So you can see here in Dexter we can actually see the blocks on our memory card here. You can see I have some edits take up 1 block, and also I have some link data. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is link data, and what link data is and how it sort of plays into edits and things like that. Well, to play edits on an arcade machine, you don't need a link data file at all. You can just go in there with 15 blocks of edits on your card and just sort of play them really easy. However, if you want to keep track of your high scores for each song on the machine, then you'll need a link data file. Now the link data file, you can actually save them out from official versions of the game. So if you're playing, for example, DDR 5th mix on the PlayStation 1, you can create a link data file. Now a link data file is 2 blocks of memory on your PlayStation 1 memory card, and that will keep track of all your scores for all the songs. So when you're playing in the arcade, if you get, say, a AA on a song with a certain score, it'll actually display it in the song wheel, much like the home version. So that's what link data is. I've just created a guide here that sort of explains it simply and what link data is, and also versions of the home versions where you can actually create link data. I took some of this information from an edit guide and just updated it because some of it was sort of incorrect and out of date, but this clearly explains how you create the link data. So for example, you're playing a DDR Extreme arcade version and you want some link data. Well, in order to create link data for DDR Extreme, you have to use 5th mix Japanese PSX version, the home version. You put in your PlayStation 1 memory card and you go to the main menu and you want to create link data. And link data for Max 2 and Extreme is called new link data because that's anything after 5th mix. And when you create that, it'll just dump 2 blocks on your memory card. You can give it a name, you can put your username in. As far as I'm aware, anyway, the arcade machine do nothing with your name. So if you play an Oni course, it won't use your name in any way. It's just sort of for the home version. But it will keep track of all the scores for all the songs on that mix, and you can see those in the song wheel along with the grade you've achieved for that score. So that's pretty cool. So if you're playing the 3rd mix, for example, then you can use the 3rd mix home version and it will create 3rd mix link data. If you again playing 3rd mix arcade, you can actually create 3rd mix link data from 4th mix, the home version. So that's how you create link data. And again, you can actually download link data from the internet because someone's actually put all this effort in. I believe most of these are from DDR Freak. So these are all the home versions, and someone's created the link data, saved it out via Dexter or similar software, and just put it as a file. So this one here, this will be the new link data. You can see there's a full memory card format here or an individual save. And again, link data is 2 blocks on the memory card. So if you open that up in Dexter, it will show you as 2 blocks. So before I talk about different software you can use to read and write the edits and link data, I'll just talk about the formats first. So I've put together this little document here that explains some of the formats. In this, we're just going to really deal with MCS files, which are sort of individual saves, and an MC file is kind of like a whole memory card image. So an MC will contain 15 blocks of data up to, because a PS1 memory card is 15 blocks. Or single state block saves, which is just like a 1 block save, or it might be a 2 block save if it's linked data, and that will just be an MCS file. So these are the 2 we're really working with here. If you have other readers and writers, again, all the formats are slightly different, as you can see here. and it also just gives you an overview in the guide, which is also included, on how these sort of files work. So I'm just going to talk about Dexter right now. I'll briefly touch on another software title as well, but Dexter just does everything you need to. So if we just open Dexter up here, you can actually open memory card image files, or you can create new ones as well. So when downloading other people's edits from the internet or messing around with saves from official games, you can open these memory card image files or individual saves and play around them with them in Dexter, and also dump them on your DexDrive on the memory card inserted in the DexDrive from Dexter as well. So in the provided zip file here, if you go to the top folder here called DDR Edits, I've put in almost every edit that I own in here. And then you can just sort of drag them and drop them onto the cards. So if we go to the top one here, AIJ Edits, and just go to this one here for example, and these are the formats that are given from the official site. Is from Aaron in Japan, so credits to those. And as I alluded to previously, the MC files are full memory cards, so what I've done, I've split this out into 15 individual saves. So if you only want to add, say, this edit on, this one's a really fun edit actually, you can just drag and drop the MCS into Dexter and put it on your memory card and just use up the one block there. So in order to put these edits on our memory card, again, just load up your memory card in Dexter, choose which edit you want, and just literally drag and drop in, and that will write it to your memory card. The LED will flash sort of orange and green. It'll write the edit to the card, and that's just one block of data. So yeah, it's very simple, very simple. The sort of hardest part is in this whole process is actually editing edits and things like that, which we'll sort of talk about briefly later. So one more bit of software I've included in the file that I want to briefly talk about is PSXGameEdit. You'll see it in a lot of guides. The reason I don't really prefer this is because it doesn't really offer you anything that Dexter does, and it's also quite slow. If you go to memory card, even the quick option, it loads the data really slowly, and also when you write it back. Another thing is when you have the link data, which is 2 blocks on the memory card, it will sort of display it a bit weirdly, and it's not very clear. And there's some garbled text and things like that. I personally don't prefer it, but I've included it anyway. But it works much the same as Dexter, so it's really a personal preference whether you want to use PSXGameEdit or Dexter. It's really up to you. One thing I would avoid is the official DexDrive software. It's an absolute pile of crap. I've included it here just for fun, but it mostly deals with full memory card images, and it's really hard to save out individual files and things. But I've included that so you can take a look. So now I'm going to talk briefly on creating edits or editing other people's edits, or even editing edits from the official game. So a folder here, DDR Edit creating software. This is really old software. It's from, sort of Windows 98, Windows XP, ME sort of time. So I've had to make a few changes in order for them to run on 64-bit systems. The first thing I'm just going to skip over quickly is this APK here. So it's supposed to be an Android DDR editor supporting this software called DDR Edit Max 2. But when you make the edits on your phone, again, you can emulate this in BlueStacks, which I'll show you right now. So this is the APK file here for creating edits. So you sort of choose an arrow here, you can create your edits on your phone, and this is sort of how it works. But the hardest part is actually getting the data off it. So if you click save, it will say save, and then it puts it in some mysterious location. Then in order to actually save the file, you have to you have to click share, and then it will create a Wi-Fi hotspot or something like that. It's a total nightmare. I've never got this software to work, so if you ever see it anywhere, it's a pile of crap. I'd just totally avoid it. But that's sort of the theory behind how it worked. The next piece of software is called smachine. Now the website for this is actually still up. Most of everything else is down and you just cannot get them anymore. So this one's actually available. I've taken the portable installation and made it work for 64-bit operating systems. So just install this bat file here as an administrative user, then you can use the software. However, it uses Japanese text. It's a pure Japanese app. So what I did with this was provided this tool here, and this lets you run the software displaying all the Japanese text. So if you right click here and go to local emulator, you can actually run it in Japanese, and then it'll display all correctly. Otherwise it's all garbled and it's really hard to tell what you're doing. So here what you can do is just create your new edit. You can choose sort of what song you want to create the edit for. This is like a hex ID, which I might cover a little later. And then you can give the edit a name, sort of what a platform it's for, what chart, and also a level from 0 to 15. So very simple editor. It is quite nice actually. But sometimes it gives random runtime errors. I tend to avoid it just for that reason. It seems a little bit buggy, but this is sort of how it works anyway. And the last piece of software I want to talk about is DDRedit Max 2. It started with DDRedit, then they did DDRedit Max, and now this is the Max 2 one. This was the latest sort of incarnation before the website went down forever. And I've edited the install files to make it compatible with a 64-bit Windows 10 operating system. So you just double click this and this will register all the files that's needed. The installation was totally broken. I don't know what happened, so I just took everything out the cab file and built it all manually so it's actually usable now. So you just double click this file here, it'll give you this error. Obviously the website's down, so just get rid of that. And this is the software, so it actually looks pretty cool. You can create edits here. We have only single mode enabled now, so it'll only sort of highlight that one, but when you switch it to double, you can plot a doubles chart here, and you can do that for whatever song. It'll tell you which mix the song is from, so third. It's pretty cool. It's a really cool app actually. You can give it a difficulty. The header format is how the arcade machine sort of understands the edit. So if you're sort of targeting Max 2, you can just put it on Max 2. You can give it a name. It's really cool software, and this is what people used to use when editing edits or creating new ones. Again, it's easier to create an edit on a home version, but this one you can use your sort of desktop computer and really get into the edits and move things around really easily. And then you can even save them as PNG files, save them as Stepmania data, and export it as a memory card format. And unlike the other software we've just covered, you can actually save this as an individual block, so an MCS file, so that's really cool. So inside DDRedit Max 2, if I go to open an individual edit here, so that's these folders, single game saves, we'll just open this one. You can actually see the edit, and when I mentioned earlier this is a fun edit, you can actually see how it goes. It's pretty crazy. There is a slight bug in here. It seems to default to DDRX here. I just kind of ignore that. But yeah, for the most part it's pretty cool. It's a good way to sort of create edits. So one last thing I'm going to mention in regards to editing software is that you can actually edit the edits using a hex editor. I've included one. This one's really good. It's a good hex editor, really small, lightweight. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I've included a guide here. This is the DDR.HACK editing guide, and in there it sort of breaks down how the edits work, and it talks about the sort of hex and how they're put together and what they mean and everything like that. So here's an example file. It's in MC format, and they sort of break it down here and talk about how the machine identifies the edit, what mix it's from, the notes in there, various things, and how it all works. And software like DDRedit Max, Edit Max 2, they just take all this data and translate it into a nice software package, so you don't have to deal with the hex. But if you create edits in Konamix or say a PS2 home version of DDR, then there are a couple small hex edit tweaks that you need to make to the files in order for an arcade machine to load the edits on a PS1 memory card. And again, that's sort of covered in this guide as well, so I just thought I'd mention that. So if you don't have a Japanese PlayStation, or a PlayStation for that matter, you can emulate it, because emulators are great. They even have memory card files here, and you can drag the memory cards into Dexter or similar software and then write them out to your DexDrive, much like an official console. So that's pretty cool. So I recommend this one, PSXE. It's a really cool emulator. So if you just go File, I'll open the game list here. And from here we can actually open the game itself, and we can save files from the edit bank onto our memory cards. We can create edits on here, save them on our memory card, and then from the memory card images, like I say, you can extract the edits and put them on the arcade machine. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So one of the last things we're going to mention, and maybe most importantly, is where do you download edits from? Well, in the zip file I'm going to include in the description, I'm going to put all the edits that I sort of have. It's got some nice doubles edits here from one of the step artists of In the Groove, and also ones from Aaron in Japan by various artists. But more importantly, I'm including the 5th mix data bank. That's the entire 3,700 songs. And what someone did, a guy called Taran, quite a long time ago now, he and a few others saved out every single edit in the data bank for 5th mix, which obviously includes all prior mixes as well, as MCS files, and this must have taken absolutely ages. And what they did, they also exported it to DWI, which is Dance with Intensity, which is it kind of came out before Stepmania, so it's pretty old now. And they included a couple of files here where you can actually see every edit, the difficulty, the artist, the song, and everything like that. So and also in an accompanying XLS file they included all the data as well. And I've added a separate tab called Sorted by Difficulty, and I've sorted all these by difficulty, so you can sort of handpick the hardest ones. And this one, the Dropout edit, I recommend you give it a go. It's got 1,500 steps, and in contrast to Legend of Max is probably less than half of that, so it's quite an interesting edit. So again, I've included these in the download file, so you can download those and use them as you wish. With regards to exporting the 5th mix data bank, one little thing I'm going to mention, and what I've included in the MISC tools folder here, is a MCS to DWI converter, and that will convert a memory card block to a DWI file, and you can play DWI files in Stepmania and Dance with Intensity. So it's a way of getting them off the game into that engine. And one other thing with regards to downloading edits, if you open up this file here, the DDR.HACK file, it includes a few references to personal links, and if you put some of these in the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine, you can actually still load these pages and download some of the edits. So I recommend this one here. It's currently down, but in the Internet Archive there's lots of links to various websites, a lot of Japanese, where you can download edits too. So we're in the arcade. A memory card compatible machine will have this Japanese text in the middle of the screen to the effect of insert your memory card if you have one. And that's when you know they're plugged in and they're ready to go. The surround will be sort of flashing a red light, then you can just put your memory card in, and that'll have your edits and optional link data. When it's inserted, it will just say inserted. Similarly, if you pull it out, it will say it's been pulled out. And all that happens from the title screen. So when you go into the game, so everything looks normal apart from the memory card icon near the top of the screen there. And now it's accessing the memory card. It takes a few seconds, but it doesn't take too long. And during this point, do not pull the card out because you may corrupt your data. So it's just loading that into the system now. And again, you see the memory card verification icon at the top of the screen, and then the song wheel here. So I have link data on this memory card and also around 10 edits. So you can see for every song there's a little blue icon with a diagonal cross. That means I don't have a score yet. For the ones with the score, you see there's a grade and a score for that song. And if you keep going through the song wheel, eventually you'll come to songs that I have edits for, and they're denoted by an orange icon on the left. And when you press the right arrow on the foot pad, on the actual pad twice, you can view the edits for that song. So for Orion 78 here, I have 2 edits on my card, so I can choose which song I want to play. And for edits, it doesn't save scores for them, only official songs. When you play an edit, you can see here it puts the edit name in the bottom middle of the screen. So this one's STMO78. So that's from the 5th Mix data bank. This one's a custom one from Erin in Japan. It's called Chin Chin. It's a very fun edit. The pads we were playing on were really bad, so we were kind of having to stomp. So it was really hard playing some of these songs. This is Dead End edit. I think one of the second hardest edits, but it's mostly 2-arrow. And again, yeah, here's the Chin Chin edit, just finishing that off. And so yeah, so some of these edits are quite fun to play. When you finish playing the edit, it'll actually say it's a new record if you beat your existing score or you're setting a new score. Once you've played all your songs, it will say don't pull out the memory card, otherwise you're going to corrupt your data. So don't pull it out during this point until it tells you to.
Now pull out the memory card.
So that's pretty much how to play in an arcade. So very easy once all the setup is done. Once you've done that, just pull out your memory card, you're good to go.